Welcome to this aspect of the engine teardown from the 2005 R1200GS. We're into the engine now. We're going to be tearing apart these cylinder heads today. There's actually going to be two videos for this. One incredibly ponderous and long, and the other relatively short. So the long one was the first cylinder head that I took apart. I needed George's help with that. The second one, I learned from the first one, and it comes apart in just a few minutes, which is really alarming, I guess, or maybe shocking or surprising or something like that. So be sure to check out both videos. Hit the like there, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the things that you do on the YouTube things. Leave a question, leave a comment, come back. We'll get to them hopefully sooner or later. It's really only just me answering the questions, so be patient with me. Okay, these are T40s, 40. Hey, George's bike started. You might get a little oil out of these when you take them off. There's two gaskets in here. The obvious one is the one around the outside, the perimeter gasket, which is super hard and shouldn't be. It should be a little pliable, so that's probably due to be replaced. And then the inner donut gasket that goes on. So the coil goes through here, the spark plug goes in there, the coil goes through here, and this keeps the oil from coming out through the spark plug or the coil hole. This one is easy to bung up when you're putting it back together. So I always recommend, if you do your own maintenance, that you keep a couple of these on hand for your valve check service, because they are just they're easy to bung up. When you put it on, you really kind of have to just get it in place and then push it home without moving it. If you chip them, they're garbage. A lot of times you can reuse them if you turn them 45 degrees, or not, I guess that'd be 90 degrees, to get the pressure points in a slightly different location. So we'll keep these because we can reuse these on somebody else's bike. These are nice and clean. They're dirty, but they're not scratched. Let me take you out of the holder here and give you a little tour of the cylinder. This is the valve spring. Here, two valve springs. This is the intake on this side and the exhaust on the front. Whoops, the exhaust on the front. This is the lock nut that you would loosen to adjust the valve clearance. So to adjust your valves, you would use a 10mm wrench to loosen this lock nut, and then a 3mm hex to tighten or loosen this, and then you check in between under the edge of the, whatever this piece is called. I know, it's just escaping me. We're going to loosen these 4 stud nuts and pull off as much of the cylinder head as we can. We got to take this off, cam chain, excuse me, not timing chain. I think once we take the cam chain off, we can take the studs off and remove the head. These are the lock nuts for the bolts you use to adjust the valve clearance. This is a plain old 10mm wrench. oil-covered bolts. I checked with George to see if there was anything else I could break in doing this, like I did with the chain rail by not taking out the chain tensioner. And he assured me that since we're not putting it back together, it doesn't really matter. So while there is stuff that I could break, it doesn't matter. So I'm getting some of these inner bolts out. That holds the top of the rockers in. Ah, nope, there we go. So that comes out, and then the rocker itself will come out. And you can see on the other side of that screw is this, hold on, let me loosen that, whoops. Get that 3mm again. Let's see if I can get that all the way out. So that's the thing that comes into contact with the top of the valve stem. Dale, does this thing have a name?
Hang on.
Okay. The little cup that comes into contact with the top of the valve stem, does that have a name?
Probably.
Probably. Is that, would that be a tappet? Is that what a tappet is?
That's what I would call it.
Okay. Because it's on a little ball. so that it can move. That's pretty cool.
That's that newfangled stuff.
Yeah. So then this one should probably come out. Let's get it moving a little bit. Let's see if I can. There, look at that. Get it moving a little bit and it comes right out. So that's the bone. And this has got some weight to it. And then the rocker is on there that moves. And that, my friends, is a push rod. And there's going to be, I should be able to get the other one out too. There we go. There's the other one. So there's the valve side. It's surprising how good these heads are in for a bike with 96,000 miles. These are the two holes where the spark plugs come in. These are the intake valves. Those are the exhaust valves. This tool is a valve spring compressor. It's a big C-clamp. And this fits over, this part of it fits over the cap on the valve. And then we're gonna push it down far enough to get the retainer clips out and then back it off to remove the valve. And it's really cool, and it's actually really easy with the right tool. So you want to, George just showed me how to use this. I never used one of these before. So you're gonna get the bottom of the compressor as close to the middle of the valve as you can get. See here, we already got one valve out. George, that's the one George showed me on. You're gonna get it in the middle, as close to the middle as possible. And then this piece goes on the other side. So let me get it in place and then I'll show you where it is. Okay, so there you can see on the bottom, we're in the middle of the valve. Now, since we're not putting this back together, it's not as super critical that we be precise, but if we were putting this back together, then we would need to be really, really careful. And then this side, you can see is on top of the valve spring. There's a plate across it. I'll take it all apart and show you here in a second. So this is the high-tech part of it. You put that in the hole and spin it. You want to take your time and be centered because you don't want to bend your tool. We've got a piece of this kit that's bent pretty good because, ooh. So the retainer clips look like this, and they just popped right out, which is what that big noise was that made me jump. So now that they're out, we can loosen this and take the rest of it out. Okay. Oh, that's fantastic. Dropped it and it rolled right under the lift. So there's a valve spring, and this is the cup that goes on top where the retainers push against it. And then to get the valve out, you just push it out. And there's the valve. So the two exhaust valves are out. Take the intake valves out next and see what else we can take off of this. Oh, there's the retaining clip from the other valve that we already took out. They're hard to see because they're very, very small. These little retaining clips. Just like they're magnetic, which makes them easier to get out. Once you can see the clips, you can get them out. These are just tiny little things. I can't imagine trying to put those back in. That sounds like a great way for me to get angry. Dropping stuff all over the place. Now I can take the valves out from the other side. See how they come out real easy. Number one. And number two. And you can see the valve seats. You can't really see in them, but they're pretty clean. I believe George said that was a knock sensor. I could be wrong, but it's some kind of sensor. It goes right into the top part of the cylinder. George says this piece comes off, so we're gonna try and muscle this thing off. And it wiggles. Oh, here it comes. Oh, there. Oh, wow. Oh, there's more bolts. Look, more bolts. This is a cam lobe, right?
No.
No. This is
That's a cam in head, so it's not a cam head. You still have little push rods there.
yes, I took the push rods out. We still can't get these little cups out, but we will be. So that's the thing. Okay. Just remember the push rod? The push rod is here. So when this rotates, here, watch. When it rotates, the push rod goes up. And when the push rod goes up, the valve
Goes in.
opens.
Opens, yes.
Okay, so when the push rod goes up, the valve opens. Where's the other one? Oh, this is exciting. This is like learning stuff. So there's the two. One push rod opens both in exhaust valves. One push rod opens both intake valves. So you remember the rocker that was on top of here. That's the surface that goes against the push rod. It's all taken apart now, so it's not as easy to see, but that's how it works.
And these aren't just push rods, they're tongue piercers. Or things you can stick in your ear.
That would be pretty big for a tongue piercing, George. But now, is that a part worth keeping?
Yeah, never. Every now and then they'll barrel out. They'll.
Ah, okay.
But I got a bunch of them.
Does any of this come apart?
These come off. The valves.
How do they come off? Hammer?
You have to pull the seats off, the seals off first.
Oh, is that easy or hard?
Yeah, just take a pair of pliers.
Oh,
there,
okay.
twist.
All right, I'll try that. But I see bolts here, so I'm going to go after those first. That looks like a 45. I am so smart.
And very strong.
And very strong. Well, we'll find out. You know, I realized as I was doing this that all of this would have been easier to loosen these bolts if the head was still on the engine. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I may actually slide the other one back onto the studs.
Just so it don't flop around.
Yeah. You want to hold or pull? You think you got the one-hand strength to do it? We'll need to wait for him to finish. That's Dale. He's over there earning money for the shop while we're here screwing around with his engine. Now, this I'm actually pretty excited about. Oops, a little more. Oh, that's a long one.
But for some reason, there's always that weird smell when you're doing valve work. The oil smells
it
different.
does. It smells
Slightly burned.
hot. Yeah. And I got that oil. That same oil is all over my hands. So now every time I have to scratch my face, I smell it. Does this come? It doesn't come out. This has to come off for this to come out, right?
Hold the base.
Oh, just got to knock it, break it loose.
Put the lobes up so they don't hit, then it slides right out.
Slides right out. Oh, and there's another piece underneath it. So there's no bearing.
No bearings, just hardened aluminum. Which is why you don't want to rev the snot out of your bike when it's cold.
Now, come on. That's people get excited by that. So that's how the cam lobes, even if it's not a cam shaft, those are still
Those are
cam
cam
lobes.
shafts,
Oh yeah. So
Cams, shaft, cam shaft.
so then that's how that all goes together.
And nifty little tidbit about this here piece.
Yeah, go ahead.
It is pressed together.
Pressed together.
Yes. This is not milled out of one piece.
Oh.
This lobe is pushed on.
Crazy.
So there have been a few cases where they have spun. Or is it that lobe that's pressed on?
Oh, one of them's pressed on.
One of them's pressed on. But every now and then you get a stupid running issue and it's the camshaft is spun.
Now we can see these cups that wouldn't come out the other side. Now come out. And that's where the push rod goes, inside that little cup. There's a spot in the bottom, which you can't see because of the light, and the push rod goes inside that.
And that is a cam follower.
This is a cam follower, and there are two of them,
Each side.
So now have we taken it? This is very light. This is aluminum.
Mm-hmm.
That's machined,
Other
cast.
than pulling out the, which don't really want to come out.
Yeah,
they're
there's.
shrunk in there.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do that. Is there anything else we can take off of this?
Just the valve seats and
Valve seats. And you said that's just a pair of pliers. And you seem to think that'll pop right out, huh?
yeah. If you know how to work a pair of pliers.
So you can, now that I've torn it absolutely shredded it to pieces, you can see there's a metal sleeve inside the rubber, and it's fairly soft. I was able to easily bend it with the pliers. There. This was how it was on there. These will go into the aluminum recycling bin, and most of the rest of this will go into the steel recycling bin after I finish taking it apart. So I guess outside the context of a motorcycle, you can't really use too much of this stuff. If you're a Brian May fan, you know he used motorcycle valve springs to build his red special guitar. So you could do that. These are tapered. See there, I don't know if you can see that there. Narrower at the top than they are at the bottom. So that's the cylinder teardown. All the parts end up in recycling. This aluminum and steel, so the aluminum goes to the aluminum recycling, the steel goes to the steel recycling. There's nothing on this engine that we're going to keep because frankly, it's had 96,000 miles on it when we took it out of the bike. And if your bike needs a part from a 96,000 mile engine, you're in bigger trouble than we can probably help you with. So get that fixed and then come back and do all the YouTube-y things like liking and subscribing and all that stuff. So if you were paying attention, the cylinder heads came apart with actually a minimum of tools. We needed a 14mm wrench to get the knock sensor off. We needed a 10mm wrench to get the valve tappet lock nuts off. The tappets themselves come out with a 3mm hex. Then we needed a T45 Torx and a T35 Torx to actually take apart the biggest parts of the cylinder head. We needed a pair of pliers to get the valve seat seals, or I forget what they're called. They're at the bottom of the valve spring area and they seal around the valve stem seals. So there's all 4 valves right there. Isn't that exciting? We did need one special tool, the valve spring compressor. That's really the only special tool we needed, and it worked perfectly. So this will go back in its case, and I'll clean up all my tools that now smell like oil. That'll be that. We'll be done. Take it easy. Enjoy the video. Come back often. There'll be more soon. We still got to get into the engine block itself. We're going to pull out the pistons and the con rods and all of that kind of stuff and see what those things look like. Until then, take it easy. Thanks for not cursing or anything while I was doing that, Dale. I just want you to know I appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome.